So welcome everyone. So happy to have you all with us today. My name is Emily Ann Opala. I am the Knowledge and Research Lead here at the Center for Innovation in Campus Mental Health. And I'm so pleased to have you all here today to talk a little bit about peer support. Before we start, I'd just like to do a brief land acknowledgement, and I'd like to state that I'm coming to you all from Treaty 13 territory, which is also the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, which represents the shared lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, and the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, as well as many other Métis and First Nation peoples. I think one thing I think about sometimes when I do these land acknowledgements is a quote by Octavia Butler. And she says that belief initiates action or it does nothing. And so I think when it comes to land acknowledgements, I think about that, and I think about what we can do to actually put the action behind our words. So I encourage you all to think about that as well as we enter into our webinar today. And I would also encourage you all, if the chat is working, which I hope that it is for you all, if you could put where you're coming to us all from. If you could insert the traditional lands that you are coming to us from today. It's always fun to see all of the geographical differences across our audience. So if the chat is working today, which I hope it should be, I'd love to see all of that. And if you don't know which land you're on, you can go to native-land.ca. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. You should have, oops, never mind. I'm now going to set closed captioning. There we go. Captioning is now started. So that's available to you if you'd like to turn that down, on or off. There's also a chat function for discussing your thoughts and your reactions to today's webinar. There's a Q&A function for submitting questions to our panelists. So we would encourage you to use that function. And we will be doing questions at the end of today's session. I'd also like to remind you to please fill out the survey that we'll be distributing at the end of this webinar. It really helps us to improve our webinar series. Just to let you know that the recording will be available on our website post-webinar, so you can check that out at campusmentalhealth.ca starting tomorrow. Lovely to see all people starting to comment in the chat, so that's good to see. And with that, I will pass it on over to Bonnie to get us started.
Thank you, Emily Ann. And I am so excited to be joining you from Prince Edward Island, or the traditional and unceded territory of the Abegweit and Mi'kmaq First Nation. We're so excited to be here to talk to you all today about the Campus Peer Support Project. And before we get started, I was actually hoping that we could, I guess I should share my slides, sorry about that, that we could understand what you're hoping to get out of the webinar today to help us make sure that we get to your questions and the things that are driving you for attendance today. So we're going to put a link to a Jamboard in the chat. And if you're not familiar with Jamboard, if you just press the link, you'll be able to add sticky notes. So on the left-hand side, and perhaps we can open it up. On the left-hand side of the Jamboard, you will be able to see your menu bar. On the menu bar, you can click a sticky note, you can fill it out anonymously, and we just want to share what you're hoping to walk away with today to help us get started and make the most of your time today. Is the Jamboard, sorry. Now I can't open it.
Hey, Bonnie, it's looking like the Jamboard is not working. It's asking people to request access to get into it.
Okay, let me fix that. Thanks, Emily Ann. Sorry, guys. Tech.
The beauties of technology.
Yeah.
Have to deal with these days.
Okay. Okay. It should work now.
Right.
And I don't see anyone in there yet. Oh,
Looks like it works.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're good to go.
Great. I'm going to pull that up. All right, I see people going in now. So you can pull a sticky note and you just add whatever it is that you're hoping to walk away with today.
Hey, Bonnie, one more small change that needs to be made. Folks need access. So it says it's right now view only for folks.
Anyone with link? Copy
Oh,
link.
viewer.
What?
Where it says viewer next to anyone with the link, right below there to the right.
Oh,
There, editor. There
sorry. Thank you.
No worries. The beauties of technology, that's what happens. Hopefully that should work.
Are we good now? Oh, yay. Okay, good. So what I'll do is I'll let you kind of add your thoughts to that and I'll keep going. Can you see my slides?
Yeah, we can see them.
Okay, great. And please fill that out while we get started. My computer just wants to catch up, so there we go. Oh, except we have another activity for you.
Okay.
Yeah. What works well, what doesn't, help to do this efficiently, learning from other experiences. We're going to talk about that today. How the project works, more about peer support, opportunities for collaboration in the peer support space. Connect with folks who are passionate about peer support, amazing. Increase knowledge about peer support programs. Sustainable and beneficial peer support programs. Where it falls in the post-secondary, yep, we'll talk about that today. Okay. You can keep those effective peer support. Okay, I'm feeling good. I feel like our plan is probably going to meet many of these needs. College setting versus university setting. Should it be designed differently? Yeah, I can speak to that. We don't have our college with us today, but I'll keep that in mind when we get to the panel. Okay. Thank you very much. And you can keep sharing those because that will inform us for the future as well. What's important for you to know. First year students in transition. Awesome. So you can continue to add to that link. We'll keep it open now that I know how to keep it open. But we actually have another activity for you to do to get started. So Emily Ann, could you put the first poll up, please? Thank you. I'll just ask you to take a moment to read the poll and let us know what your response is. Are we getting some votes, Emily Ann?
We're getting some votes, yes. So far, we're at about 96% of folks who have said all of the above.
This audience knows peer support. Awesome. Just want to set the table a little bit about what peer support means in the context of this particular project, because I know peer support happens all over campus in many meaningful and important ways. And we have a really specific definition of peer support and how peer support for mental health and substance use, what that means for us in the campus setting. And it's really bringing our practice in community mental health to the campus. So this is how we see peer support in community mental health. And this is the type of peer support that we are bringing to campuses in this particular project. All right. I'm sorry, my slides are very slow to advance for some reason. There we go. I'm going to hand it over to Corey.
Hey there. So I'm just going to be reading a submission by one of our actual peers on campus through the University of New Brunswick site, which Bonnie will talk about the sites in a minute. And James was kind enough to speak a little bit about how he saw peer support. So he shared, peer supporters are like friends with mental health training. We do not give them advice or treat them like clinicians do. We listen to them like a friend and understand what they are going through because peer supporters have experienced similar things firsthand. Peer supporters are survivors of mental illness and/or addiction. We are able to understand when perhaps no one else in their life does. Peer support is intended to eliminate the power imbalance between helper and helpee. Speaking to a peer supporter is similar to speaking with a friend who supports you and builds you up instead of making you feel small. And I think that, James really kind of captured so many of the kind of core values behind peer support in the framework that we talked about and have really kind of taken on through this project with Bonnie and campus peer support nationally. So when we talk about the values and the principles that guide peer support work, a lot of, and truthfully, like almost every single component of the program and the training that we provided to the peers really reflects deeply the values that we see actually within Peer Support Canada's framework for peer support. On your screen, you can see them, but we see mutuality, dignity, self-determination, personal integrity, trust, health, well-being and recovery, social inclusion, and lifelong learning. And these key values or principles really guide the way you approach the work, your lens to how you interact with the peers that you support, and the decisions you make in terms of how you engage with peers on a one-on-one or group circumstance. And each of these things is so interconnected. They build onto each other in such a beautiful way. It's really a lovely framework to work within.
Thanks, Corey. So we are really guided by the work at Peer Support Canada, and we'll put a link into their strategic plan and some of the foundational documents from the Mental Health Commission of Canada that guided our partnership team in creating the curriculum for the Campus Peer Support Project. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a project overview. CMHA National is working with 5 pilot sites from coast to coast, and they work with their local CMHA branch, region, or division, with the exception of UBC, which is our pilot without a community partner. Students and staff from across these pilot sites formed our partnership team, and they co-designed this formalized peer support training for campuses. Peer support is a really important community-based mental health program at many of our CMHA locations across the country. And our CMHA peer support workers are the subject matter experts in peer support on our project. They share their experience in support of the campuses by facilitating training and providing ongoing support to the campus workers. We're really fortunate also to have Peer Support Canada play a really key role in supporting the development of our training curriculum. This project is funded by Health Canada, and it was designed with it's a three-year, three-phase project. We are in phase 2 of the project, so we are currently piloting the training at all the campuses, and we are starting our evaluation right now, actually. So we'll be moving into evaluation over the next few months, and in the last year, we'll be really continuing our implementation and evaluation and really focused on sharing our learning and supporting the continuous development of the curriculum and implementation to end off the pilot. And, you know, beyond the pilot in 2024, we'll be looking at what the outcomes and what the learning was from this pilot, and hopefully we'll be able to scale and replicate across the country through our CMHA Federation, which is located in over 330 communities in Canada. These were the learning outcomes for peer supporters. So, you know, there's probably nothing really, if you're thinking about our training curriculum, there's lots of amazing peer support training curriculum. This was the curriculum that this group of people came together to meet their needs, and flexibility was really important, and what we heard from our campuses. So this is what we hope our peers will learn by the end of their participation in the training. And of course, we support their ongoing development. It doesn't end at the end of training. The most important thing for our peers is, honestly, they're doing their job if they are able to create these spaces of connection and belonging on campus, where students just feel seen, heard, and valued. If they're able to do that, they're doing everything we hope they could. And so in terms of the actual training curriculum, we've got 2 designs. So based on our partnership team feedback, we heard that we need to have flexibility in how training happens on campus. So we have a modular design that is over 5 modules. Those modules can be a couple a week, or they could be 1 a week. So the pacing can really be set by the campus. The modules include 2 to 3 hour live sessions, and then self-directed learning activities in an online learning management system. It's all applied and experiential, very role scenario based, and lots of time built in for connection within the peer group themselves. A lot of time in the self-directed learning activities is spent on self-reflection and personal growth. And we want them to then be able to share their learnings with each other in a community of practice. Every site has their own campus community of practice, and then we have a national community of practice so that peers can learn from the different types of implementations and experiences that are happening in different parts of our country. And our sites are as unique as our country is, and every context and the student demographics and the needs. You know, what we heard from campuses was that it was so important for them to have autonomy and choice to be able to determine what was important for their particular student group. The supports for peers, like I mentioned, so there's the foundational pieces that are included in the training, which includes handouts and resources and the live session, as well as those self-directed learning activities on the learning management system, which the students get to keep, and they can reflect back on their growth from kind of throughout the process of being a peer. So kind of what their thoughts were at the beginning and how those have changed over the course of time and with experience. For navigating their very unique peer role, where they're mobilizing their lived experience of struggle and resilience, that's where we have the CMHA peer supporters co-facilitate or facilitate the training, And then they are ongoing touch points for those peers to support their ongoing development and to make sure that they're being supported in their very unique role as a peer. They also will have ongoing opportunity for professional development from our peer support workers in the community, in our CMHA community. And for success in their campus job, their campus supervisors are their people. That's who's there for them day to day to support them in their day-to-day activities, problem solving, planning, and then all the nitty gritty from payroll to scheduling. And their campus supervisors are there to support them to integrate with all the other services that exist on campus. What we hope is that through this project, we are adding capacity to campuses, adding another menu option for students to choose from, knowing that depending on the circumstance and the student and the complex kind of interplay of identity and mental health and well-being and substance use health, we think having options for students to start from different places, recognizing we're all in different stages of readiness to ask for help, and so wanting to make sure that there's lots of different accessible ways for people to reach out and ask for help. That brings us to poll number 2. We want to get a sense of what's happening on your campus. Emily-Ann, are you able to put that up for us, please? So can you please tell us what's happening on your campus to get a sense of, we know that there's lots of peer support happening in campuses across the country, lots of good work happening, and we know it looks different everywhere. And so this will help us understand kind of where you're coming from and what your experience with peer support is. And unfortunately, I have a cold and I do just have to blow my nose. So then
So we're starting to get some answers here.
awesome. Are we able to see those answers, or are you able to?
Yeah, I'll share them once I end the poll. So far we have about 18 people who have answered. So I'll wait a little longer for more people to answer, and then I'll share the results.
Thanks, Emily.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognize there could be an infinite list here. This is not exhaustive of all the possibilities. So this is a snapshot of some. I probably could have created a list longer than this poll could handle.
All right, so I'll just end the poll now and I'll share the results. I don't know if you can see those.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can see them. Can everyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, awesome. So, all great. So like 26% are doing traditional peer support grounded in lived experience. And that's lived experience of mental health. And almost kind of equal is with a shared lived experience of being a student, I think was the second one. Some digital, and 47% no peer support. So you're here to learn. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Now we get to the best part of our webinar today, which is our pilot site panel. I'm going to stop sharing so that you can see all of their wonderful faces. And I'm going to ask our our pilot site panel to introduce themselves. And I'm going to start with Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm the Student Conduct and Conduct Education Coordinator at Trent University in Negotiation or Peterborough. I'm also the Peer Support Coordinator. Yeah, and really excited to be here.
Thanks, Caitlin. I'm going to ask Christine to go next.
I'm Christine Crow, and I am the manager of peer initiatives and employment supports at CMHA HKPR branch, which is Halliburton Fork to Pine Ridge. It's just a lot easier to say the acronym with the long title. So nice to be here as well.
Thanks, Christine. And Joaquin.
My name is Joaquin Santana, and I am a peer support worker for CMHA HKPR. And I've been working with Caitlin at Trent University to create the pilot peer support project.
Thanks, Joaquin. I'm going to hand it over to Matt, please.
Yeah, hello, good afternoon. My name is Matt McLean, and I am the mental health strategist at the University of New Brunswick. Also really excited to be here. I've been the one, along with had a great team on the campus here to coordinate and support our peer supporters.
Thanks, Matt. And then last but certainly not least, Corey.
Hey y'all, my name is Corey Ferguson, and I'm a peer support consultant with the Canadian Mental Health Association of New Brunswick's Fredericton office. And unfortunately, my coworker, my fellow peer support consultant, Lauren White, who's also been a huge part of this project, was unable to join us today, but wanted to say that she was really grateful that everybody came out and hopes we have a great chat.
Thanks, Corey. Okay, well, we're going to get this kicked off. And we promised you that we would talk about a few areas in this webinar. And so the first we're going to talk about is peer support values in action on your campus. So my first question is for Caitlin. Caitlin, how do the campus peer support staff apply a person-centered approach to supporting peers rather than an illness-focused approach to care? And then if you could talk about the impact that that has on their peers.
Yeah, thanks. I think the best way to describe it is like the way that I see our peers engaging with other students is just seeing them as a whole person, a whole entire person. So asking questions and offering like empathy and care around their studies, around their housing, around their social connections, around them feeling engaged with our community, around their families back home, around dating. Like so many pieces of each person are like seen and acknowledged in the way that our peers engage with other students, which is just so lovely. And they just like trust that students know best, know what their needs are best, right? And I think that this really shows up in how many students, visit our space on the same day every week. We have so many students who like come every Tuesday or come every Thursday. And I think just that like seeing the peer support space and our peer supporters as a bit of a home base between classes kind of thing. I think that's really stands out to me.
Thanks, Caitlin. Matt, did you want to add anything or?
Yeah, what's one thing that is interesting is that the way our peer support is located and how it works is quite different. So there is a contrast there. And so if anything, ours is probably a little bit more clinical and less of a like easy space to just come and drop in. If a student wants to access a peer supporter, they go through the exact same excuse me portal, the means that they would use for booking an appointment with a counselor. And a part of that is that probably like a lot of institutions, we have a challenge with space, good accessible space. You can get a space in the far reaches of the campus, no problem, but having a space that students would actually go to and use is quite limited. So I think if anything, that's probably been a barrier for us. I would have liked for it to be, and in the future maybe we'll look at doing that. That's sort of how we're set up right now.
Yeah, I've seen both spaces, and it is interesting how the space itself can really impact kind of the, for lack of a better word, like the vibe that you can create, and that accessibility can be limiting. Yeah. I see a question coming up in the Q&A, and I'll put this out to anyone, and including our CMHA peer support workers, we have lots of experience with this. It says being a peer support on campus can be very rewarding, but also can have also be a heavy additional task to student life. I was wondering how you might incentivize students to maintain their peer support role throughout the year. Anyone want to take that? I will say that through the pilot, all of our peers are being paid. So we really value peer support at CMHA. We see peer support as paid work and as really key care people in our community mental health framework. And so we brought that to campuses. So we are supporting campuses to pay their peers. So that does help, I think, you know, because they're getting some monetary support, financial support. Like, I mean, what student doesn't need money? So I think that probably helps, but I don't know if anyone here has anything to add. Caitlin, yeah.
Yeah, so we pay our peer supporters and I pay them more than our approved student rate because I think that it's really specific kind of work that was approved by our HR department. And also we approach scheduling in a very collaborative way. So I don't give them their schedule. We all get together at the beginning of the semester. We take all of our schedules into account. A lot of our peer supporters are not only just students and peer supporters, but they have other roles. Maybe they're involved with the student groups, or they have another part-time job on campus or downtown. So we all sit down together and we figure out what works best for you. Sometimes we have split shifts because we're open Monday to Friday, 12 to 4. So some days we might have one day where there's 2 hours and 2 hours between two peer supporters. We also offer volunteer positions. So each day we have a peer support staff and a peer support volunteer who are both in the space from 12 to 4. And they have different roles depending on like the kind of training that they have and their capacity and that kind of thing. But we've had staff say, you know what, I can't commit to one full day per week, but I really want to stay involved. And yeah, so just like really having collaboration, as well as encouraging students to bring their interests into the peer support space. So we have a student right now who works on food sustainability and food security on campus. And they want to bring an element of that into the peer support space, and they want to bring some peer support into their other work. So like really supporting their choices and their passions and interests so that, yeah, so that like, I want to see where they all take it, you know?
Thanks, Caitlin. Anything else, anyone else before? I'm going to keep going then. Wondering what impact, so maybe just to follow up, what impact does offering peer support on campus have on campus culture? And does it contribute to their perceptions of the institution at all? I don't, I'll let Matt and Caitlin who wants to take that one.
Yeah, no, that is a great question. And it's kind of funny because when we did a large scale student survey 2 years ago, one of the things that really jumped out was that our student population felt no, as you know, generally speaking, the campus was, you know, not supportive of student mental health, did not encourage open and healthy discussion. And you know, one of the maybe kind of almost my like entry point into like peer support, or one of the things that I value about it so much is that democratization of mental health, right? Like, because we've done this thing where we just like, you know, and despite what I said earlier, made it so clinical and it all happens in one place, as opposed to just being like a general facet of everyday life for everyone. You know, again, despite what I just said, I feel like, you know, I'm on a mission to want to try to change that. And yeah, I think peers are it's so great that they will be able to do that, both by just, you know, virtue of their presence and the work they do, but also I love that we are bringing in students at sort of like or people, you know, at an earlier stage. And it can be very difficult, you know, if you are interested in mental health as an undergraduate student, like there aren't a lot of experiential opportunities for you. So I think being able to like do that is really great. And just, yeah, sort of helps spread that message.
You want to go?
Hello again. Yeah. The peer support, when we post for peer support staff and volunteers, it's the hottest application on campus. So peer support is like it's a very popular program at Trent. And I think that it contributes to campus culture because it's a part of the like web of other peer-based support. So Trent has Ishkadewin, which is like Indigenous academic peer support. We have Black student support. We have out on campus. We have trans peer support. We have peer support. Like we have so much peer-based stuff going on. And we have like international student ambassadors. So I think that it impacts campus culture because we are an institution that shows everyone that we value peer-based support by having those programs. And yeah, and I think it's also just like a familiar place. Like I said before, it's the hottest application. So the hallway leading up to, that's just my perception, but we have a hallway leading up to the peer support space. And sometimes students will just pick the study spaces closest to the peer support space. They won't go into peer support, but they just kind of like being around. They might stop in for a snack or to say hi. And I think that that's like really speaks to how comfortable the space is, that if it's full, people just kind of want to be around it. Or that, yeah, they just kind of want to check on the vibe before going in. I just really like that. It's like approachable, you know, no pressure kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think something important to say is that in this pilot, 3 out of our sites had never had a peer support, well, not never, but we didn't currently have a peer support program at their campus, and 2 did. So we had 2 kind of veterans that were evolving their programs and strengthening them, and then 3 campuses that were brand new. And Trent's one of our evolved strong programs. And so, you know, I think one of the things that's important to remember is that, like, it's a slow build, and it takes time to build culture, and it takes time to find out what works for your students, and it takes time to find the right space. And you might not get it in year 1, year 2, year 3 even, but that doesn't mean that there isn't value and there isn't potential. And, you know, in what UNB is doing, they've started with what they had. And I think that's the most important thing. You have to start somewhere, and you work with what you have and you make the most of it. And that's what I've been seeing at our campuses that are brand new. They are working with what they have in the absence of excellent space and in building culture on their campus. They're building that foundation. And being at Trent, you can feel it everywhere. It's maybe one of the most inspiring places I've been. So, you know, that just takes time to build. And you have to have an institution that values it. I see some other questions coming in from the chat. One was, I noted you train your students in crisis resources. We have a peer support program on campus here and are always trying to navigate the boundaries of ensuring they're equipped should heavier topics arise, but also ensure we do not imposing a crisis worker role onto our peer support workers. Do you have any suggestions or experience with this? I'm going to ask our CMHA workers to talk about this, and I don't know who would like to maybe take this one on. Corey, thanks. Good question.
It's a great question. I can start us off anyways, but please do, folks, panelists, add in. First of all, I apologize. The sun is chasing me. When it came to these particular conversations with the peers we had for the UNB site specifically, there were a lot of questions from the peers about how to navigate that, and trying to help them understand how to navigate potentially more heavy situations in a safe way, and B, a way that kind of holds true to the peer support values was incredibly important and really kind of underlined very well within the training modules. But the conversation I thought was pretty important within the peers during training. And we really focused on, first and foremost, always that validating, compassionate space and approach and connection. A lot of times people's instinctive response is to rush to fix, and trying to help the students or the peers understand the importance of allowing space, and compassionate space. And then also staying true to those peer support values, particularly things around mutuality and self-determination, as long as it was safe to do so. So, looking to the peer who's struggling, and remaining kind of centered from the lens that they are the expert in their own experience, and allowing them or kind of asking some questions and helping them through processing what they think they need right now and how can we help get you connected to what you need. So it kind of helped the peers understand that they can stay within the boundaries of their role, in a safe way, not in a safe way that's, not just safe for the person they're supporting, but also for them. Does anyone else want to build on that maybe?
Yeah, I think what you said, Corey, was great. Like, I think Kayla and I sort of did that and, tried to validate, of course. But I think one of the most important things about peer support, and I've been doing it for many years, is that, like trying to find resources. Like, so we make sure that our peer supporters have their resources. So if something like this comes up, validation is great, and letting them know, that we're here to listen, and trying to gather the information about, what the crisis is. So, and then we sort of, Kayla and I sort of focus on teaching, like, okay, so these are the resources. If someone is talking about suicide, we focus on, like, these are the people you can call. This is how you want to tell the person, like, I'm not really trained in this, but you're always welcome to I can call someone that is definitely trained on that. I think because one of the reasons why we did that was because sometimes as a peer support, especially as a student, you don't want to take on too much, because this is a learning opportunity, right? Even after you take the training. So even though as CMHA we get trained for this type of crisis, is very important, to let the campus support worker know that they have support themselves, that they can call, and they have and Kaylin did an amazing job at creating a resources, so and making sure that the campus support worker knows how to deliver that information. That's what we focus on, trying to figure out what crisis is the student is, and how to find resources for that person and who to call, just to keep it less of, just like keep it simple for them, and for them to learn how to, like, ask for help as well. if that makes sense.
And in the training, this was kind of a contentious issue, I think, when we were first talking about what would be included in the training and like, would we talk about crisis or not? And would they engage in any type of discussion? And again, it comes back to like when there's, when those thoughts start to come up and be expressed, the important thing for the peer support worker to do is, again, make sure that that person feels seen, heard, and valued, and that you ask questions about what they'd like to do next. So like that's a really key part of peer support in general and self-determination. And so each campus created their own kind of protocol. And I can speak to the one at Trent because I saw it on the wall. It was beautiful, just like a really clear escalation path. And so you could probably reach out to these campuses to kind of hear more about how they manage crisis on their campus, because every campus is kind of different with their risk threshold and what works for them. But we wanted to make sure that when crisis came to a peer supporter, it wasn't hot potatoed, that there was space created for that person to be heard. There was a question about wondering what the uptake's like. What's your uptake like on campus for peer support?
Well, we have a very established program, but now that we're back in person, because peer support was virtual last year, I don't know, every day we have like anywhere from 3 to 10 students dropping by the space, and maybe 1 to 3 one-on-ones. So we have a drop-in space, and then right beside that is a one-on-one room where our staff provide like one-on-one peer-based support. That being said, some days nobody comes. So yeah, but I think the uptake has been like fairly consistent. And we have people coming back, like coming in person because they showed up on our online peer support last year, which is really cool too.
I would have to term our uptake poor to middling, but I wasn't surprised by that. You know, again, thinking that, you know, here we are, we have the space, it's on the second floor of this building, housed right in counseling services. And, you know, we definitely did like a marketing blitz, you know, for me, every student on campus should know that that service exists, right? But that did not necessarily translate into usage. And I think though, and I was reminded this by the other day, I went to some other webinar, someone speaking out of the US, and they talked about peer support there. And it made me feel better because they said, you know, years. It may take you years to build this. And I'm like, yeah, okay. You know, thinking back to whenever they introduced counseling services, you know, I don't know, on campus here in the 1970s or whatever, like I'm sure it was a pretty quiet place. So I think establishing it and getting it to a point where our uptake is, you know, I feel good. Like, yeah, I'm totally okay with that taking years. And which isn't to say we haven't had any appointments, like we definitely have had. And I feel like each one of those plants a seed of like, okay, you know, that's how word of mouth gets around. We are planning on asking too. We really do want to find out amongst the student population, like, you know, okay, did you know about it? Yeah, sure. But then what was your perception of it? Like, why or why not did you think it was for you? And, you know, I have some excuse me, instincts about that, but you know, we'll during our evaluation stuff, we'll figure some of that out.
I was just going to add that, so we, outside of campus peer support, our agency actually delivers trans peer support on campus. It's something we did through a grant we had years ago, and now Trent contracts us to deliver it. And I think just in looking at intake and uptake, you constantly have to evaluate things, reach out to campus, what day of the week, like are in that particular delivery, we're in a completely different space. We've had huge uptake, especially in this last year, just because this is the first sort of normalish time that we've had in post-secondary education in quite some time. So I think it's always looking at, in the topics and the style that we deliver that programming is always changing. So I think if you're looking at, just looking at a model and trying to put it into a campus, that's a good start. And then it's also always evaluating, what are we hearing? What could we change? What might be needing to be adapted, instead of just saying, oh, nobody's interested, we're not going to deliver this anymore. So I think it is the test of time with any quality improvement, any program delivery. You're always should have that evaluation piece into the delivery.
Thanks, Christine. And we actually in this project have built in a lot of time and resources for evaluation because it's a pilot and we want to learn. And I think my favorite part about this project is that we have 5 very different sites who are all implementing in different ways. They don't look the same at all. Their context is different. Their CMHAs are different. What's common are the values, and there are shared goals. And what's so interesting to see across all the sites is then how they implement and what they learn from that. And so, that will be a really important part of phase 3 of our pilot, is kind of sharing 5 different case studies of, okay, here's what it looked like at Trent and at UNB and at Medicine Hat College and at UPI and UBC, which are all very different, also rural, urban, in very different contexts of where they're located, size of institution. So it's so important for us to be able to share with all of you as we continue the learning how it worked out at 5 different campuses and what they did. And we hope that through learning from these campus sites that we can create some implementation tools and some supports for you to help you make decisions and help you try things. And I think what's really interesting to see is that Trent and UBC, who had their established peer support programs, both those programs are very strong and thriving, and that gives me so much hope for the other 3. They're just getting started. And so just a final question for all of you is I guess knowing that you might not be you have wait lists or you're bulging at the seams in your drop-in space, but how would you define success? And have you achieved any of those successes so far? That's my last one.
Here's my success story. We were able to take an existing peer support program that was built by my dear friend and past colleague, Robin Ocean, who created peer support at Trent. We were able to take that and merge it with this amazing pilot program. And it's just so much more robust. And yeah, and I think having the opportunity to share our experiences as a site with an established peer support program to other people in the pilot and to other people who I now talk to all the time about peer support because of this pilot, I think just that generosity and collaboration and growth, those are all really amazing markers of success to me. And that our program hasn't compromised any of our values, anything that steers us,
I think for me, success is always in delivery of peer support, that people understand what it is and what it is not, and that it's valued and there's mutual respect for that as a professional practice. I think sometimes when it's viewed as a less than or an alternative to, instead of an equally valuable piece of work and delivery for people, I think that to me is success. And that exists definitely with Trent. We've had longstanding relationships with the university in terms of placement of BSW students. I've hired Trent students, graduates that were peer supporters on their campus in my program. So I think there's a lot of good relationship and mutual respect for those relationships, and it's supported and honored in all kinds of ways. And I think that to me is also the success piece. I know I can call Caitlin, we can talk about whatever. Joaquin is working wonderfully with Caitlin, delivering such great work on campus. And to me, that's where all those sort of pieces are where the success lies.
What I might just do, I just want to share one last thing. I know we have only a couple of minutes, but we started with a definition from a UNB student. I just want to share some reflections from Trent peer support students. Look at their beautiful space. Can you yeah, who wouldn't feel good here? But these really stand out for me. And this is, I think, what I hope you walk away with and is the student voice. So the student said, I love peer support, but the one-on-one time is the most beautiful for me. I learned so much about myself and how I want to care for other students on campus. It's such a good opportunity, not just for the students who come to talk, but for me as well. That's a hallmark of peer support for us, is it does you so good to help others, and the value back to our peer supporters as well as to the peers that they're supporting. And then one last one, if my slide will let me. My favorite thing has to be about getting to know more about people and their experiences, or what they have to talk about, and when they come in to the space and share. It sometimes feels nice to know that we are all in the boat together and not alone. There will be problems, but there's always solutions and support, which is so great. Totally peer support. That, like, to me, that really says it all. So thank you everyone for coming today to learn more about peer support. We're all so grateful. And oh yeah, I'm gonna you want their contact information? Yes, sorry, that's important.
I was just about to say, if we could pull up that
Yeah.
contact information form for folks.
Very important. Please reach out to our campuses. I know that they are more than willing to share their experience, some that are new in their experience and some that are very experienced. And we hope to continue to share as we learn more and continue this pilot and do our evaluation. And we hope to talk more and more about peer support on campus, and hopefully you'll be there.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Joaquin. Thank you, Corey. And thank you, Caitlin. This was just a fabulous webinar. I'm sure that everybody who was here today learned a lot. I also want to say thank you so much to our audience. Thanks for taking the time to come and meet with us, to ask your very thoughtful questions. It was lovely to spend this hour with you. Just a reminder, our next webinar is going to be on the topic of ACEs. So that's adverse childhood experiences. We are going to be talking all about ACEs, what they are, and how they impact students. So that's something you can look forward to on January 17th next year. Thank you so much, everyone. And also one more reminder, please complete the survey upon completing this webinar. All right, and with that, it is now 2 o'clock, and I will let you all get back to your very busy schedules. Have a great day, everyone. See you next time.
Bye, thank you.